911 enthusiasts refer to their cars by their code names, often confusing those that have literally no idea what they're referring to. I hope to shed some light on that today. Welcome to the Porsche Review. My name is Javier. Let's get started. Porsche 911s can be separated into 7 generations, and their naming is a lot less confusing than it seems. The 7 generations of 911s are the early or classic cars, the G series cars, the 964s, the 993s, the 996s, the 997s, and the current 991s. 911s can be divided into 2 groups, the air-cooled and the water-cooled cars. Air-cooled models ran from 1963 to 1998, and the water-cooled from 1998 to the present. Let's start with the early or classic 911s. The early generation were cars produced from 1963 to 1973. Those are simply referred to as early or the classic 911s, whichever one you prefer. This was the start of the 911 range. As a quick history fact, the 911 was not even supposed to be named the 911, but it was going to be named the 901. However, Peugeot was protesting the use of this name as they were already using a 3-digit naming scheme with a 0 in the middle. So Porsche renamed their line to the 911. The cars made from 1963 to 1965 are still referred to as 901s by enthusiasts. After the 365, another car that Porsche made, stopped production in 1965, Porsche saw demand for this new car, the 911, so they kept producing the 911 and started to sub-model numbering. All cars from 1965 to 1969 were known as the 912s. The use of the denomination 912 ended in 1969 because Porsche stopped producing the 912 and started to produce the 911S, 911E, and 911T and used the 911 denomination from there on out. So the cars made from 1969 to 73 are just simply referred to as classic or early 911s. There are certain design cues that set the classic 911s apart from the rest of the line, including the metal bumpers, smaller form factor, really nice curves, and separate taillights. In my opinion, this was the most beautiful 911 series ever made and offered such timeless styling. If you see this car on the street, you can immediately tell what it is just by looking at the bumpers. If they look like this, it's an early 911. The next generation of the 911 was the G series cars. These cars are also known as the G-body 911s. They were produced from 1973 to 1989. This gen is characterized by its boxier safety bumpers, more distinct headlight fenders, and the unified taillight. These cars are becoming more common and shooting up in value as collectors are now starting to appreciate them. If you see one on the street, you can identify it by looking at the front and rear bumpers. This generation 911 brought about the first turbo ever, which was known as the 930. The 930 is another name for the Porsche G-body 911 turbo. The slant nose was a variant of the turbo and also a G-body car, as you can tell by the safety of the bumpers. This is the only series in the 911 generational line that is known by a letter instead of numbers. The next generation of the 911 was the 964s. They were produced from 1989 to 1994. These models have been made popular by Singer, which basically does a resto mod of these cars. The most stylistic note about the car and what sets it apart is the curvier shape, including the roofline and the bumpers. It's straight away from the boxier shape of the G-body. This generation brought new tech into the Porsche range, including first-time 4-wheel drive, power steering, ABS brakes, and airbags. What makes this car easily identifiable on the road is the front bumper bulge, then the taillight's engraved Porsche branding. The previous G-body had black Porsche branding on the rear. These as well are shooting up in value, especially the turbo variant. Following the 964 is the 993. This was the last of an era of the air-cooled 911s. This car was produced from 1994 to 1998. It's a well-coveted generation car for being exceptional to drive, as well as having a stunning design. What makes this car easily identifiable on the street is the headlights. The headlights have been flattened down a bit in the lines leading up to the headlights, as well as the headlight sprayer make it notable. The rear taillight is also curvier than the 964 with no visible Porsche branding. The 993 brought about the launch of the first ever GT2, a car that is iconic and deserves a video of its own. After the 993 came the 996, which was produced from 1998 to 2004. This is regarded all around as the ugly duckling and a mishap in the 911 range. It was the first water-cooled car which alone received heavy criticism, on top of being the ugliest 911 ever made. What makes this car distinct are its fried egg headlights. That was like the Boxster headlights at the time and make it easy to spot. Porsche introduced its way of a model refresh with this generation, and the way they do it is by adding a dot and a number to the codename. The cars produced from 1998 to 2001 were the 996.1s, and the cars produced from 2001 to 2004 were known as the 996.2. The .2 made a noticeable upgrade to the ugly duckling, including a upgraded interior and some smooth out styling updates. The 996 is typically the cheapest of the modern 911s to get due to its low demand and bad styling, but a good example is still a great car to have if you don't mind those headlights. Porsche learned its lesson with the 996 and released a new generation, the 997, switching back to round headlights. This car was produced from 2004 to 2011 with a refresh in 2008. People complained about Porsche sticking to the water-cooled engine, but it became a standard. This generation's design was more delicate and was more in line with 911 designs of the past. The refresh, the 997.2, brought some aesthetic changes including different taillights and also introduced the world to the PDK, the transmission that changed Porsche forever. The dual clutch PDK showed a massive improvement over the previous Tiptronic and will be covered in a separate video. This generation of the 911 brought about the ludicrous GT2 RS and the coveted GT3 RS 4.0. The way to tell the 997 apart is the taillights. The sharper, wider look was different to that of the 996 and the next generation, the 991. The present generation of the 911 is the 991. It started production in 2011 and continues today. Aesthetically, this is one of the prettiest 911s since the 912 and the 993 for me. Its current look is well-rounded and balanced, and the thin profile of the taillights give it a faster look. The model was well received by critics, and this model is also noticeably wider than previous 911s, indicating a trend in the range. The 991 brought about electric steering for the first time, which of course was criticized, but Porsche stuck with it and regards it as the future. The 991 got a refresh in 2015 with the 991.2 and is the present iteration of the 911. The next gen, the 992, should be coming within the next year. The 991.2 brought sharper taillights and a redesigned engine grille. The most distinguishable feature is the notch in the taillight. The 991.2 GT3 is my favorite car on the road right now. Porsche has battled critics of its change in design for years, but has always set the correct path moving forward and will continue to do so. As technology changes, design changes, and more than likely in at least 2 generations from now, the 911 will be completely electric, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new one for design and technology. And I honestly couldn't be more excited.